Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Podcast Juice. My name is Michael Dean. This is the podcast on Prince. And we're just going to get things started. But joining me today, Mr. Big Sexy, sir, how are you?
My computers have a mind of their own. I hate them both.
All right. Apple, sir, how are you doing?
Doing good. Had a great week. Got a couple of compliments. I joined Blacks in Gaming Discord. They were like, wow, that's really dope that you guys were able to get Podcast Juice. That's a dope name. I was like, yes. I dropped the link. Yes, listen to it. We got a ton of great Prince content, a ton of great interviews. We bring the heat.
All right. Well, shout out to, what's it called? Black
in Gaming.
Black in Gaming.
Yes.
All right.
Black and proud.
Right. That was really dope.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, quick announcements here. This is a podcast, actually. I know we have this on YouTube and people are hearing us on YouTube all the time, but you can also actually listen to us on your favorite podcast app, whether that's Apple Podcast or Google, Spotify. So you can certainly find this show on that as well. And of course, we have our Patreon page. I believe it's patreon.com/podcast juice. You can go on there and support us and you get the episodes early. And then there's also Prince related podcasts that are only on Patreon, or sometimes we'll play music and things which you just can't do on YouTube. So just wanted to get that out to you. But today we're going to talk about Purple Rain, the movie. And I was thinking, I think it's time that we finally get like an uncut version of the movie, if you will, a Snyder cut. You know, as you have this Justice League movie is about to come out, they're going to re-put that out again, and it's going to be a 4-hour version of the movie with all of the stuff that they cut out of the movie. And I'm like, you know what? We need, maybe they don't have a 4-hour version of Purple Rain, granted, but if you look at the trailer for the movie Purple Rain, you will see that there are a number of things that were cut out of the movie that were obviously filmed because you see them in the trailer. And then if you actually go and take a read of the Purple Rain script that you can easily find online, you will see there are a number of things that were either A, cut out of the actual movie that we saw, like scenes, and then just certain things switched around a little bit, dialogue changed slightly. One of the most glaring things when you read the script is that it doesn't say Apollonia, it says Vanity is the character. And even when they address Prince in the movie, he is not called the kid, he is called Prince. Like they openly say his name, Prince, throughout the movie, or at least in the script. And there's an instance in the script where the Prince's mother's character actually calls him Skipper, which I did not know that. I was like, man, they're really using some real shit. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, what we would think, what would we want to see in such a uncut movie. And again, I think it's time for that. We've seen these super deluxe versions of Purple Rain, 1999. We're about to get Sign of the Times. Why can't the movie, at least if nothing else, the Purple Rain movie, it should get that treatment? Now, I don't know if it's feasible these days to put out Blu-rays and stuff because it's kind of going away. But I wouldn't be mad. Let me ask you guys a question as we get this started. Would you buy a Purple Rain, and also I'm saying push it to 4K, a 4K Blu-ray, and maybe they have to hike the price up just a little bit to make it worthwhile, so they charge a premium, and maybe they charge, $39 or something, but you get, the highest quality version of it, and then they have like uncut scenes and stuff. You think that'd be worth a $40 price tag?
I'll go first. No.
Really?
Now, like, when you were talking about all that, I'm like, yes, I'm going to be the Prince completist. I'm going to be on code. But then you hit me with the $40 price tag. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I really don't watch anything via DVD, via Blu-ray. So I'm like, how many times am I going to watch that? So, I mean, yeah, I say that, and I have all these CDs which do not get played whatsoever. But for me, I just really can't justify that expenditure. Now, if they dropped it to 20, yeah. They throw it up on I thought you was going to go with, they're going to put it on HBO Max and have it as like a $5 own or rental type
that
thing.
Could be that. I could see that too.
Yes.
I could certainly see that.
$40 for that. I still haven't figured out, for me, what to do with all these CDs. I've been saying for 3 years now, I'm going to get them up on display. So adding that, I just can't see what I would do with that.
All right. Big Sexy.
If there's more content, definitely. I would be all over that because, when you get into the 4K disc, they're pricey to begin with. So that going in. But they're going to look so much better. And again, if there's more content like an extended cut, and they put in, especially if they put in more stage performances, I'm all over that. All over that.
Yeah, what if they just did like a whole documentary along with it? Like, and found some of the footage, interviewed the people that were there. Now, I remember there was a DVD release of Purple Rain. I dare say it was the 25th anniversary. I could be wrong. I'll let all the scholars go off in the comments. But I remember that was a big deal, and I remember buying that. And I think that had the MTV premiere party thing on there.
Yeah,
I
have that. I have that disc. Yeah.
Yeah, so it had, and I think it had some other interviews, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it had a commentary track on it or not. I can't remember. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think it should be done because that's an important movie. It's an important movie in terms of a musical, rock movie, black movie. It's an important movie, and it was a hit. I think if nothing else, it deserves to be upgraded to 4K, right? That should be done. And I think that just for the completists and the super fan, just as they do these deluxe editions, I think we want to see those scenes that were cut out. Could they recut it into the movie? Yes, I would play a premium for that, but I wouldn't be mad if they were just like, we're just going to show you a series of uncut footage. I'm not going to cut it into the movie. But I think it would be great to see. And I want to talk about some of those uncut scenes and get some opinions on that. So let's see. And for reference, you can go look at the Purple Rain trailer. There are a number of things in that trailer that if you really pay attention, you don't see in the movie. And I always remember the biggest glaring thing for me is I remember watching that trailer before the movie came out, and I was like, okay, yeah, was the scene where Jellybean and Prince get into it. And you see Prince look like he punches Jellybean or something. I remember I was like, oh, this movie's going to be crazy. Okay, this is going to be my kind of movie. But obviously that is not in the movie. We'll go up to that part. So let's start with a couple of things. One, early in the movie when Prince, I think the first time he encounters his parents having the fight, there's a funny line as Prince gets smacked by his dad. And Prince's dad says, "Get up, you ain't hurt." I was like, I would have been
black dad.
Yeah, I was like, I would have been mad if they had that. Get your ass up. It says Prince opens his mouth and blood gushes from a gash on his tongue. It's like, okay. What else did I want to jump in? In the script, it is the character of Apollonia is called Vanity, which would, obviously she was going to be in that at first. One of the things I think is interesting is the scene. So the whole scene where Prince meets or picks up Vanity or Apollonia at the mall, and then they had the "Take Me With You" sequence, and then Lake Minnetonka and all that. It actually ends a little differently. I wonder if they filmed that and then decided to go a different route with what we saw. But instead of her getting back on the bike with Prince after she gets out of the water, when he drives off kind of laughing at first, She actually goes back, I guess, onto the street or the road and hails a pickup truck, somebody driving down the street. And she gets in that truck and leaves. She doesn't ride away with Prince, which I thought was very interesting. There's a whole thing in the movie with Jill Jones, this character, that she actually likes Prince and is trying to sort of get his attentions. And there was like a scene with Kim Upshur where she kind of confronts Jill, saying like, girl, you need to leave that alone. Like, he ain't even checking for you type of deal. And, Jill's character, I'll go to some of the dialogue. It says, Kim, she says, honey, you chasing after him? You chasing after that fool? And Jill goes, I'm doing what I'm doing. It's my business. And then there's another character named Caddy. He doesn't even look at you. That's the last thing you want from a man. Talking to Jill. And Jill says, you just don't know him like I do. And then Kim Upshur says, honey, look, listen, and then feel. If you do them if you do them in any other order, you're headed for trouble. And then a whole scene where Matt and Bobby Z come into the area where these girls are at. And it's a whole thing where Bobby Z is like all eyeballing Jill Jones's breasts.
Hey.
I'm like, what? and Jill's like, she notices him looking at her chest and she says, what you want isn't on the menu. And then Bobby says, Jill, in 10 years, they'll be on the table. Damn. This movie was wild.
You left that in.
And then she tries to hit him, and he ducks.
Now, forgive me, I'm the youngin. Now, is he speaking to gravity going to her boobs, or that she'll be so desperate that they're on the table as opposed to the men?
I guess it's left up to interpretation.
Okay.
And then Matt, he jumps in because then Kim is like, get out of here, you jerks. And Matt goes, sweetheart, do you have a real hot place where I can stick my nose? And then Kim says, sure, try a microwave. And then it says the guys bust up, head for the tables. And then the caddy person says, those guys are so deep. And Kim goes, yeah, deeply retarded.
Damn, I mean, that would have did his band members so cold if they put that. They ain't got no game.
And then what else is there? There's a scene. I wonder if they filmed this. There's a scene where Apollonia meets Billy Sparks. I guess it's the second time she comes back to the club, after she had already left her card and stuff. So she comes back and they make a scene to show that she's paying her way to get in. And Big Chick is looking at her like, yeah, you got in. You ran through the door last time. This time you're paying. And she even says something, I'm paying this time, see? And then he tells her, hey, Billy wants to meet you. So there's this whole scene where she goes upstairs and they describe Billy. He's wearing like a blue tracksuit with, it says pointy-toed tennis shoes or something. It was classic Billy, though. I was like,
pointy-toed tennis.
I swear that's what it said. And, and it describes him as fast-talking street and all that kind of stuff. But basically, he's trying to holler at her, and she seems to kind of be flirting with him at first, but she's trying to get a job. But he's like, and she's like, oh, you want to go to dinner? He's like, you want to go to dinner? And she's like, oh, theater? Like, are you talking about a dinner theater? And he's like, well, yeah, we can go out to eat. Then I could take you to the theater. She's trying to show that she's an act. She was saying she was an actress and a stage play or something, but she can sing. But he obviously don't. He ain't trying to hear none of that. He's trying to get in them draws. And so at this point, Jerome comes up there, and when Apollonia or Vanity sees Jerome, she knows who he is enough to say, oh, hey, I was looking for you. And Jerome's trying to surprise, like, oh, okay. He plays along with it. And that was her escape to leave Billy. And that's Jerome gathering her to take her to Morris, where he tells her to watch out for the chick and bring her to the table. So that kind of led up to that part. What else was interesting? Was these, so the whole sex scene at Prince's house. This is interesting. So they fall asleep together and are sleeping in Prince's bed or whatever. And Apollonia is awakened by the sound of Prince's parents fighting. And she's scared. Like she's hearing all the, and Prince is just sound asleep. And she's like, looking, what the fuck is going on? And so she gets so scared that she sneaks out of the house. And she's like walking around outside and she's kind of lost. And then all of a sudden somebody grabs her by the throat. And she's like, what the fuck? And it's Morris. And he's like, yeah, I know you. He said something like, I know you wasn't going to spend the night with that needle dick or something like that. And actually, if you look at the trailer, there's a scene in the trailer that shows a real clip. It's Morris and Apollonia walking through like bushes. And you can see the Prince house. Yeah. That's where that scene is from. So he takes her from that, and they end up walking away or sneaking out. And there's a reoccurring thing that they talk about in the script where a cop car comes by, and Morris will see the cop, and he kind of straightens up, and then Jerome pulls up with the caddy or whatever, and they get in the car. Let me see. So yeah, he takes Vanity or Apollonia, and they drive off. And Prince, the script shows that Prince actually had been laying on his bed, but he opens his eyes like you don't know if he really was asleep or he was faking, or he was faking it. Like he just didn't want to move and do nothing. And at this point, Morris, Jerome is driving, and Vanity or Apollonia driving down into the car. And you know what they do at this point? They do the whole sequence from If the Kid Can't Make You Come, on the album. And he's like, he does that whole talking and all that stuff. That is done in this scene in the car. They say that Jerome opens a glove compartment, grabs a cassette tape that says Restaurant Ambiance or something like that, and puts it on. And then Morris goes and starts doing his whole, he asks for the drinks, and Jerome makes the drinks while driving. And then he just does that whole thing. I got the Italian, da-da-da-da. And then when he gets to the end, he's like, I don't normally lay my cards on the table. That's when Apollonia, she's like, stop the car, let me out. And she gets out. I don't know if it's at her real house where she lives, but it's a hotel. And she gets out. And I think Morris is like, okay, I got this song and dance for you. And then he gives her the tape, right? But then he also does the hits on the window. And that's the part where, Jerome, get the window. The window goes down. He has Jerome pull out a canvas saw.
Oh.
And hands that to her as well. And says something like, think about me at night or something. And so she goes back into her place, up to her hotel, and she's kind of looking at the canvas saw like, oh, okay. And then somebody knocks on her door. This is all in the same night. Somebody knocks on her door. She doesn't know who it is. Opens the doors. It's Prince. And she's like, I knew it was you. Like, how did you find me? Blah, blah, blah. And then he takes her and they go driving again on the trails. They're out like in the woods area. This is leading to the barnyard scene.
Ah, yes.
And then they get into that. And there was something and again, she's asking Prince, like, can you help me out? Like, I want to do music and stuff. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. And she gets very upset with him. And there was like, I guess there's a part where there's these hikers that are out there where they're at. And she's like talking real loud, and the hikers are like, whoa, what's going on? And Prince is kind of playing it off, and he just talks to the hikers. He's like, hey, good morning. And they're like, hey, how you doing, sir? And then they describe that they start walking again, and she hands Prince a flower, and he's throwing the flower. And I'm thinking, I said, you know what? That's the scene that we see in the When Doves Cry segment, where Prince is kind of at the lake or something.
Yeah.
And he's that is cut. I think that's cut from this scene. They just aren't showing her in the angle of those shots. And eventually they end up going to that barn. And when you read that part in the script, that's where the purple rain happens, actually, like a literal purple rain. It starts raining and the water's hitting her skin, and they're saying it's like a purple color, and then they make love and all this kind of stuff. And then I think from there, from the barn scene, he ends up taking her. And then, you know what happens in the movie? It goes from the love scene, and then it goes to the scene where Prince is just dropping her off. That's how they describe the end of the barnyard scene. He eventually takes her back to her apartment. It's now the dawn. It's an early morning time, and that scene happens. So I wonder if they just cut all that out, and it goes right to that in the actual movie. There is a scene. The scene where Billy meets up with Prince. He's like, "Where's Lisa and Wendy?" and all that. He literally tells Prince, he says, I only got room for a couple of groups. But he actually says, it won't be the time. They're playing backup to Vanity. So it's either you or Modernaire. Means, what would you do in my position? And then Billy says, I like the Modernaires. They have a good following. They show up for practice, and the kids like their music. And then there's this whole scene of a BMW pulls up. There's some chick is in the car, some fine chick, and Billy opens the door and gets in. And he says something to Prince like, "Get smart, straighten up your shit," or something, and drives off or whatever.
Well, clearly Billy's a bad business person.
Well,
miners are so good, we don't see them.
Well, I think because they may be cutting out of the movie or cutting those parts out of the movie. There's another part where they show them again, and they got the crowd locked. So there, and we see that in the movie. I mean, look at the crowd's reaction at the parts we do see them in the movie. They obviously are the shit. They got the crowd locked down.
That's just strange that they would write that in there. Like, it's either you or the Modernaires. Wow.
Well, I think they're trying to show, and we get this from the movie, but obviously his performances are so mesmerizing that he's not really hitting at that club.
No, he's not.
You know what I mean? Like, he's having troubles with his whole thing. He's good, but obviously the time is destroying it. And they show you that they only show them one performance, that they're destroying it. And his is kind of off and on. Sometimes it's banging, sometimes they're not feeling them. What's the other one I dropped out? Oh, so here's the other thing. And maybe I can read some of this. This is the fight with Jellybean.
Jellybean?
Yeah, that's
6'6" Jellybean?
That's what you see in the trailer. Right? Which may be the reason why he may have cut this out. I don't know. But eventually, Apollonia does get with Morris to do the Apollonia 6, Vanity 6. And they've been working on Sex Shooter the whole time. He shows her the girls doing it. And he says, hey, Apollonia, we need you in the mix. You can add something to this and really take it out. So they're doing their thing. They're finally rehearsing. After Prince leaves Billy, where he tells him to get his shit together, Prince comes to that studio, the rehearsal place, with the time. It says, Prince suddenly enters the hall. Morris spots him immediately and halts the music. The girls dance on a moment, then stop perplexed. Vanity catches Prince's look and shakes her head in disbelief. Prince says, I want to talk to you. She's out of breath and waves him off. Not now, I'm busy. Prince is like, now. It says, Vanity wipes her face, fixes him with the glare. She says, I said I'm busy, we'll talk later. And Prince is like, and grabs her suddenly and pulls her to the door. And Vanity's like, leave me alone. I got a show to do. And she pulls away savagely, is what it says. And she says, you can't just come in here and take me away. We'll talk later. And it says, Morris is enraged. And then Morris says, man, why don't you just do the walk? And then Prince glares
That's
at
a good one.
Here's a fun. Prince glares at him and cups his genitals. And Prince says, why don't you kiss the one-eyed snake? And then the band lets out a condescending groan. Tensions arise, and Morris says, Jellybean. And then says, Jellybean, 6'4", 210 pounds, steps from behind the drums and moves up behind Prince. And Jellybean says, let's go, Jack. And Prince says, fuck you. And he lunges, grabs Vanity again, and she shrieks. Vanity's, leave me alone, damn it, get out of here. Jellybean lurches, grabs Prince in a headlock, lifts him off his feet, and Prince kicks him wildly, and Jellybean in range says, fucker. He twists Prince's head backwards, smashes his body to the ground. And Jellybean says, stay still. I might have stopped cutting. Stay still, mother effer. Prince continues fighting him with everything he's got. Jellybean is astonished. And Jellybean says, shit. He twists Prince's neck savagely, smashes his legs to the floor again and again. And Jellybean's like, stop. And it says, Vanity starts crying. And Vanity says, Jellybean, please. Prince drops to his hands and knees, exhausted. Everybody is frozen now, scared. The girls are crying. The incident has already gone too far. Jellybean settles his weight on Prince, twists his head down painfully, trying to break the resistance he alone can feel. Prince remains silent, the anger coursing through his body in tremors. The guys surround him, grabbing Prince's arms, legs, and feet. He's like a trapped animal now. Jellybean says, lift him. And then Vanity cries out, don't hurt him. It says they pick him up, move him toward the door. He resists them slightly, his body lurching in fits and starts, and suddenly he breaks free, faces them with the back of the door, but the band members surround him, their wills united, oblivious to the apparent situation. He searches for Vanity's eyes, but she can't face him and walks away. Anger again surges in his veins. He cuts out the door and slams the door behind him and takes off. And then it goes into a whole scene, and I wonder if they filmed this, where it sounds like Prince gets on his motorcycle and he is just enraged, and it's almost like he's playing cat and mouse with a train, and like weaving in and out. Either it's a train or a truck. Like he's literally like trying to play what do they call that when you're going head on with the car?
Chicken.
It's like some sort of a chicken thing, but then there's another car that comes on the opposite lane, and Prince has to swerve out, and I think he crashes or something. It's real crazy. It just sounded like he was so mad, like he was literally screaming in rage. Which would be very interesting if they filmed that. Just this kind of, it goes to show you that the kid, or the Prince character in the movie, is got deeply trouble. Like it's got a lot of shit going on. Very mad about stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to root for that guy to win in the end.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? And the last part that I pulled out of the script is this after Apollonia 6 do their performance. And there was a lot of other little bits and pieces in there where just stuff with Billy and with Morris has more parts in the movie. Yeah, there's little. I don't know why you would leave out the Morris stuff. Otherwise, maybe it would have felt more like a Morris movie by leaving some of that in there. And if you pulled the Prince stuff, but this is what's interesting. After they had the performance, and they know Prince is there. We see that in the movie, and obviously Morris is surprised how good the events happen with the girls group. Billy is through the moon. And Prince is he's been trying to kind of nudge his way backstage, and everybody's kind of like ignoring him. And then Vanity finally sees him outside, and she agrees to, does she agree to go with him? No, it's the same thing happens in the movie. She's with Morris, and then Prince comes and takes her. There's a reoccurring sort of little thing they keep talking about, cut your hair, motherfucker. Morris says it early on when he describes Prince to Apollonia, like, oh, that long-haired motherfucker. And then somebody else says it later. And then the final part is when Morris, you long-haired faggot. Like, that was a thing kind of in the movie that Prince had long hair and people thought he should cut it or something. But here's the thing. Once he picks her up and Apollonia is drunk, she's drinking, we see that in the movie. But I want to read what happens in the script, and I'm curious what would happen if they just showed this. He says, the Prince lashes out suddenly and smashes, I think, the flask from her grip. She screams wildly, slaps him hard across the face. He stands shocked a moment, his rage surging within him, smashing through every safety valve he's acquired in his life. He backhands her savagely across the jaw. She hits the ground like a rag doll. He looks at her curiously, bends over her. She sucker punches him with everything she's got. He screams in rage and grabs her hands as they frill about his face. He squeezes her fingers back while the tears stream down her cheeks, and her mouth forms a silent ow. She bares her teeth angrily, and he sucks at her mouth, biting and kissing her in a fever pitch. She kicks him violently, hot tears streaming down her cheeks. He jams his leg between hers, rubs it firmly against her bottom. She struggles helplessly against him as he covers her breast, her stomach, her thighs with his lips. Quick breaths escape from her. Her breathing begins to race. He snaps her panties into, pulls them from between her legs. She spreads herself as he releases his pants. She squeezes his buttocks, pulls him toward her. But Prince resists her coldly, regards her with contempt. Suddenly, he flips her onto her stomach, forces her to stand painfully on her knees. He rubs his hand between her buttocks, then thrusts into her painfully, driving himself into the very depths of her. But she stifles a cry, arches her back, and meets his thrust fiercely, moving quicker and quicker, banging her buttocks against his thighs again and again. She's drawing from him now, turning the humiliation around, obtaining all that she needs and desires. He's powerless. Her thrust, set the pace. She rises. Prince still inside her and tugs on him rapidly, causing him to ejaculate suddenly, drawing from him a sharp and sudden cry. She moves away, draws her coat tightly around her, fixes him with a contemptuous look, and then she says, "You're nothing, Prince, absolutely nothing. You think you're so special, but deep down, you're just like all the rest. Your whole life, you've been hiding behind your music, but now you don't even have that, because last night, you used it to hurt someone who really cares." And she runs up the embankment, wipes her tears, and faces him. And she says, "If you put your hands on me like that ever again, I'll be the last person you touch." And then she pulls off his mother's earring, throws it at him, tears flowing. She streaks into the highway blindly, directly into the path of a speeding car. And I think she ends up getting in that car, flagging somebody down. But that's a very different way that scene happened than what we saw. I'm curious what you guys think about that.
You can't have your hero smacking around women, raping women. Nah, man. No.
I have to agree. That's a very dark scene, a really dark scene. I mean, I understand near the end, apparently Apollonia takes the power and takes control, but
no.
Yeah, that.
This is supposed to be your hero. You trying to move music with this guy? Fuck out of here, man. No.
Now nah. I had to self-censor myself. Well, I'm just reading from the script. I'm not throwing nothing extra on it. I'm not trying to Me Too nothing. I'm taking it straight from the script that was written for this movie. Now, again, I'm very curious if they shot this stuff. Some may say, well, they're not going to shoot everything. That's true. But from the trailer, you can pretty much tell that they did shoot a number of this. So who's to say that they wouldn't have shot this type of stuff? And that's why I want them to have a special edition so that we can ask the people who made this movie, because they know what they shot and what they didn't. They know what happened at those test screenings that they had for this movie and why they, I tend to think that they probably showed some of this in the test screenings and it just didn't work for whatever reason. Maybe people laughed at some of the scenes that they weren't supposed to laugh at, or you just couldn't take it serious. Maybe the acting wasn't that sharp, or you know what I mean? Who knows? Or maybe just the story flowed better. Or again, for something like this, it obviously changes the tone of the movie by having things like this in it. And you wanted this to be a more celebratory type of a movie. You would take it out. But But it's very interesting. I as I said, reading the script, I was like, this would have been a dark movie. Not to say it wouldn't have been good, and I don't know what it would have done for Prince's the way we perceived him at that time. But as a fictional movie, I was like, it's pretty strong stuff. It should have been a deeper movie.
It would have ended his career.
You think it would have ended his career back in 1984?
There was a guy who was an aspiring singer on a season of 90210. They had him smacking around Tori Spelling. Career over.
Now this guy wasn't a star.
He wasn't a star.
That's what I'm saying.
But the thing is, when you put yourself in that position, I'm smacking her around, I'm raping this one, and I'm not a screenwriter. You can't redeem that character, man. No, he's got to go.
Well, I think I'll say this. They put out a movie that had him smacking up women. So they did, and his career flourished.
Put it out today and see what happens.
Well, that's what I said. We're not talking about today, though. Yeah, today you probably couldn't put Purple Rain out the way. Even the way it was released probably wouldn't be able to come out. But I'm talking about back then.
And they caught heat for for the smacking around scene and to throw the chick in the dumpster. They caught heat for that.
Not at the time, I don't think.
Yeah, they did.
Thought that shit was funny. At least I didn't think nothing of it at the time. I thought it was, at least it's some pimp niggas.
That's what I thought too, but they caught heat.
Yeah, but then, but that's part of the lore. They caught hink, wink, wink. That's my opinion. But I think you can still redeem the character because on one hand, I mean, as Aunt Pooh said, Apollonia is not going to be a victim. And she flips it on him. Now, I'm not giving him an excuse. I'm just saying, but y'all know what I'm saying. I'm just saying what the characters do. You don't judge me. You can judge the character. But the character flips it on him and even tells him, you put your hand on me again one more time, and it's off with your head. Which I thought would have been powerful to see the woman strike to hit back and we're like, nah, I'm not going to be the victim. And we've seen, there's a lot of these kind of rape movies. I hate to say it like that, but I'm going to jump into a genre movie here for a second. What was that movie called? I Spit on Your Grave. Yeah, there's a whole series of that type of stuff. There was a movie called Deceived with Jodie Foster, which is a brutal thing, but she goes to court over it. But I thought it would. I'm just saying. I would love to see those characters fleshed out more because it just gives me more of those characters. These aren't, and the thing is, they don't have to be great people. The kid in the movie is not a great guy. Even from what we saw, he's not a great guy. He's very troubled. He's being affected by the violence he sees at home, and then he's doing it to his girlfriend. There were more sex type things with his parents, which were alluded to in that scene where they first go to Prince's house and he's like, freak show. I think they in the script, they show them doing a little bit more with that, which I thought maybe he's going to the psyche of the kid of why he's doing like this. There's a part in the script where even Apollonia is like, you don't want to make love to me. What do you even want me for? You don't want to do music for me. And so he's obviously dealing with some sexual type. You know what I mean? There's a part where Morris, again, goes in on Prince. He's like, he don't like girls. And Vanity is kind of the shot back. Well, yeah, because he likes women. And he's like, okay.
But the thing that I got to say, I think if they did put that scene in, for me, I feel the ending doesn't work with them seemingly reconciling at the end. I just don't. It's like you have this very violent scene with them going back and forth, and it ends, as you were saying, empowering Apollonia. Like, yeah, that wasn't whack. It's like I got it. You didn't get some. I got some. I took some. And then it's like, if you do have that scene, I don't think that you can have them reconciling. It should just be done, in my opinion. How do you go back?
You can't.
Well, I think a rational person, a strong woman, probably wouldn't. But these are she's written as 18-year-old girl in this. in the script. So I don't think she would have the mindset somewhat of a grown woman sometimes, probably would be done with that. A younger person may be more susceptible to give him another chance. They make a point to show that she's in love with him. And after he does Purple Rain, she's realized, and I think it says in the script, like she realizes everything that they've been through was addressed in this song, and he bared his soul to her, and she felt like, I still love this guy. She felt bad for him, and she knew what was happening with his dad. And then they show like, she gives him the jacket at the end where he comes back out to the crowd, and then it still does the montage thing, and of course she's there. And the thing in this, as we see it in the movie, because they don't talk, we don't know their frame of mind, right? I think in the script, they're kind of saying like, the kid decides, I'm going to do better. I'm going to take it, they say, I'm going to take it one step at a time, and I'm going to do everything right, and I'm going to change and make my way to be better. You don't necessarily, you can just kind of infer that from looking at the visuals they show us, but they don't give you his psychic thoughts. You don't know what he's really thinking, and is he still the same guy, or does he choose? Again, should she go back to him and give him another chance? Some might say nah, but some might, a younger person might, okay, I did it again. We don't know what happens after that. It's the literal, the script just says the music continues on forever, kind of into the sunset type of deal. But I'll tell you what, I would love to see, even if they don't put it in a movie, just to see the acted parts, the stuff. I just think would be interesting. There's little different dialogue parts in there. The password scene with Morris and Jerome, it's actually some dude that's a shoe shine boy that is shining his shoes, not Jerome. And they still do the scene, but at the end, I think the shoe shine dude is like, are you guys on drugs or something? But I would implore you should read the script. I think it's actually it's an interesting read in context to the movie and what we saw and what some of the things we could have seen, So yeah, man, Purple Rain. I'm gonna call it the skipper cut. let's start that hashtag. Can we get that out there to put some pressure on Warner Brothers and the estate to maybe think about putting that out? Maybe put it on HBO Max or something. I would personally say there's a market for hardcore fans who would want to pay, who don't mind paying a little premium price to get it in 4K on disc, to have it in your possession. People like to have things.
It's like people who would be buying the Criterion Collection things. The 4K
Exactly.
crowd, they're going to spend that money. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, people who are buying the special edition version of the album and paying 100 something for the CDs. People want to have something in their hand. I think there's a place for it. And again, it's an important movie, in my opinion. It was a blockbuster hit. It was a great movie.
And it came out of nowhere. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's a timepiece for the time. But I think, completists, it would be great to see that footage. It's alluded to. People always want, I want to see the barnyard. Yeah, let's see the actual scene where they had Purple Rain, like that. Even if it didn't work, but
you're absolutely right. The same people who are picking up that, Sign of the Times Super Deluxe and the 1999 Super Deluxe, they're going to buy it. That's just the way it is. And the hardcore film heads are going to buy it as well. So there's definitely a niche market for it it would make money on.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, even if you're just like a film nerd, the process of how they do something like that and how they, the other part too was the music was slightly different. The Beautiful Ones, actually, before he doesn't do the Beautiful Ones, but the song he does immediately before that, when Morris is sitting down with Apollonia at the dinner table and he's trying to holler at her, Prince goes in the G spot.
Oh,
and in the way in the script, Morris is like, oh, he's trying to do us the time, but it ain't really working, because he's like, oh, he's trying to do one of our type of songs, and he was like, even the crowd is into it a little bit, but they ain't into it like me. And then Prince goes into electric intercourse, which has the effect of the beautiful ones is substituted for that. But I was like, man, I wonder if they shot that. I would think maybe they didn't, but it'd be curious. It would be a head buster if they did, right? If they were like, yeah, we're going this DVD or 4K is going to include the unreleased musical performances. What? Like, yeah, okay, $40. Yeah, I'll buy 2. But yeah, man. So we need that. We need that. Any other things you would love to see on a Purple Rain unreleased before we get out of here?
You know,
you hit it off for me.
Yeah, maybe I am, and I'm going to use my Anthony phrase here. Maybe I'm feeling a certain kind of way because, some colleagues and I were talking about this whole Brock Turner thing, which has just, reignited my anger to that rat fuck. And so now anything that's going to involve, raping women, I ain't with it under no circumstance. So that's probably why I'm so angry about it. Now, having said that, from a film nerd, completist standpoint, if it's out there and they cut it in Florida, I want to see it, and they can show us why they didn't put it in the movie too, as well. Because at the end of the day, it's still fiction, but exactly. It can show us why they didn't add more to their thought process.
Yeah, for sure. And remember, we got to remember too, when this movie was getting ready to come out, the early word on the streets was, oh, this movie was X-rated. And they had to edit it down. I don't know if you guys remember that kind of conversation.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so maybe it was so over the top. They was like, yeah, we got to pull this back. I don't know if we want, we don't want that smoke.
We're not going that far.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. So curious to see. That's all I wanted to get into today. Again, and let me address something real quick. I see the comments on YouTube about the ads. I've tried to fix that. I didn't know. Admittedly, I was not aware that I had any control over that, but apparently I do. So I'm going in and toning that down so it's more watchable. So hopefully this particular video will be an example of that. But again, if you would like to stay up with the show, you can always check us out on your favorite podcast app. This is actually a podcast as well. 13, 14 years running?
Yeah.
So you can definitely check us out on those other platforms. Before we get up out of here, Big Sexy, where can they find you online?
Oh, the usual haunts. Mark Wiggins at Facebook. Mark Wiggins 2 at Instagram. And WSE Mark on Twitter. And be looking for an announcement for me the next couple of weeks.
All right. At Poe.
Website?
Really?
Website?
Really? See.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Pooh, and head over to YouTube, the Nerd Soul channel. Yesterday I did a live stream talking about seasons 1 and 2 of Cobra Kai. So if you have not seen it, it's on Netflix now. You absolutely have to. If you are a fan of the original Karate Kid 1, 2, I'll even accept 3. Not that next Karate Kid, that was trash. Go ahead. We really get into it. I thought I had some really good facts about why Daniel LaRusso is a punk, but they hit back like he can't. They clap back hard. It's like, see, you spoken like someone who has never been bullied. I was like, damn. Yeah, I was the bully. Okay. Let me I didn't admit that on the show. I was like, ooh, yeah, okay. So I guess I better be watching my back. Somebody in their 40s trying to beat me down. But yeah, it was a really good roundtable discussion. Shout out to Nerd Soul.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you check us out here at podcastjuice.net. And work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.